Dr. Murray, in our discussion a little bit before we went on the air as it is, for want of a better term, onto the internet, you mentioned that you had seen some references in another case already about this particular UCI court case, even before it's really finalized. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think this is really important, because folks have to understand really how the court system works. And when a ruling or judgment is made, that sets a precedent. And then every other case afterwards will refer to that case either to help support or defend whatever they're bringing up. And because this particular case has been in the courts for so long, and because certain rulings have been made, it has already set precedent where now it's being referenced in other cases to help others be able to go after a religious institution and allow government to step in. So they're saying, look, the government was able to step in, the court was able to step in here and do this. So therefore, the court can step in over here and do the same thing. So that's the reason why it's so important to understand that once something is done, it becomes a precedent, and other cases are now built on and they reflect back on that decision that's made by another court. And that's why it's so dangerous. And, the president has an opportunity, may have an opportunity coming up in the appellate level to appoint 2 new judges. If that door opens up and the president is able to do that, the president needs to make sure that he is looking at judges who have not only a sensitivity, but a constitutional understanding of religious freedom. Mm-hmm. Because Judge Cordero does not. She has stepped in both feet. She has gone overboard in where she's at, and definitely violated the constitutional rights of every member of the unification movement, and therefore now puts every other religion in jeopardy. We are all in jeopardy now because of the decisions that she is making. And I think it's very important for us to understand that any judge that is appointed and reappointed must meet that bar of not only understanding and sensitivity, but also unbiased. That judge needs to make sure that there's no bias in their reflection, and that they do not have, they're not God. They are not the creator, Imam. And I think sometimes our judges think they are the creator, that they can decide, well, this is how we're going to handle it. No, they have to go back to the Constitution and follow what the Constitution says. And this judge has not done that. And therefore it's setting precedents that's going to really hurt us around the country in all different faith communities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murray. What makes it even more egregious, I mentioned this case has been going on for 9 years, and progressively there's been, 4 or 5 judges at least involved, because it's been spread out so long. But the very first judge dismissed this case and said clearly, this is a case of religious dispute between two, it's a schism within a church, within a religious movement. And it's clearly a religious dispute. The first judge dismissed it. And then the opposing party, or the complaining party, went to appellate court, and the appellate court sent it back and said, no, you must reopen it and everything. And now it's been 8 years later, and we're still, it's so egregious. And then decisions like Judge Cordero made were just so egregiously one-sided, and obviously showing that bias that you mentioned against Dr. Moon's faithful group. And now there's a new judge, Judge Anderson, who has to decide again, is this case thrown out because it is a religious dispute, or do I punish one side capriciously, as has been directed by the judges before her. So it's a very delicate moment, important moment in history for this case and for all the implications and so on that will follow. Imam, would you share with us your view on this precedent-setting aspect as well?
Well, I like what you just said, it baffles me now if the first judge threw it out on the grounds supported and rooted in our fundamental law, the Constitution. That's the fundamental law, and then because we have the amendments that support that are upon that, and to again that underscores what we are speaking about now, the threats.
Yes.
For those that will come in and begin to interpret something that they really have no right to interfere in. And of course, we've established that. And if we do that, then of course, yes, we lower ourselves as a democracy to being those ones that we look at and say that they need to uphold those rights of religious expression. And we see it all the time where I was in the military, and we had individuals who were Muslims. And because I was not a chaplain, but I helped get the Muslim chaplaincy established. I'm one of the pioneers to get that established in the military.
Wonderful.
And I always work with all the chaplains. But you would have Muslims they would maybe have different understandings of the faith.
Yes.
And they will come to me. And some, for instance, you may just some small things,
disagreements.
They some in their respect, it's mandatory to have a beard. It's mandatory to wear a covering over the head for the males, and those kind of things. But they're not universal. But that's his understanding based on what he's following, and they have to accept that if that's what he now believes based on his understanding. And the military now, because they're to protect the Constitution. That's part of what the chaplain is to do in the military. They had to accept that. Even though you have one that may not wear it, and you have another will wear it. But because they are obeying their conscience, and they have that right. And that's why it's important to have as much pushback as we can to fight, to encourage our leaders, those in government who are entrusted to uphold the laws of the government, that they have to understand the serious sacred regard for human life, their tie to the Creator, and the sacred regard of the intent of the sacred documents upon which this country was founded. We have to continue to push that.
Amen. I have to say, after a while, it begins to feel like some type of inquisition is going on against this minority faith, because the first judge ruled it clearly this is a religious issue, and the following judges have ignored that. And all you have to do is look at the Constitution and then look at the facts of the case, as Dr. Burry mentioned, to see that that is the case. I'm so grateful to both of you as members of the coalition there in DC for supporting the right to believe and our campaign in this court case. And unfortunately, as it seems like our time just flies by in our series here, we're approaching the end of our time for our program. But I'd like to turn to each of you and let you have a final few words in general, whatever you'd like to say about this issue, in particular if you have anything to say about the court case, how you see your coalition there supporting the case, and so on. Anything you would like to say. Imam, would you like to?
Yes, I want to emphasize the idea that we've established as a nation. That idea that ties the individual to their Creator. That is the strongest glue or adhesive that holds together the idea that we call a Western democracy. And that's the envy of every other society when they look at us. And we say this is the American experiment, but we must make sure we continue to forward to prove, so it proves itself to be sound and continue to excel in excellence towards a more perfect union exemplified in that which ensures domestic tranquility, provides for security, and promotes the general welfare of all of its citizens, and makes sure there's never a breach between the citizen and their creator and their created purpose and their understanding of how to serve their creator. That logic is clear. And we have to have the courage in all of our coalitions to push and promote that they follow the logic to its logical conclusion and set individuals free to serve their creator. We just had Independence Day.
Yes.
The real independence is the independence to live the life that the creator has ordained for you based on how you see it. That's the real independence. I'll close with that.
Well, thank you so much for that brilliant analysis that you've given us today. And I'm so grateful to you personally. I had heard about you from Dr. Murray before, but for me, today's a red letter day. I could actually meet you through the internet, and icing on the cake to know that we're both from North Carolina.
Yes, Howard. It's mutual.
And thank you, Imam.
Indeed. You're welcome.
Dr. Murray, it looks in our discussion today, you'll have the final word. Anything you'd like to mention? I'd just like to point out, someone observing our work in this area pointed out that there's a great call for reform going on, as we know, not only in the nation's capital, but throughout the country, a reform of the police and et cetera. And actually, we're calling for a reform too. We're calling for a reform of the judiciary, that they should not continue to really break the First Amendment in so many cases, et cetera. We need that kind of reform. But you'll have the final words for our discussion today. Dr. Murray.
Sure. Thank you, Howard, and Imam. It's been great to be with you again. I appreciate the time. Our nation is such a unique country, and our Constitution, and we look at our democracy, and we're like a living organism that shifts and changes. We are so blessed as a nation that we have the individual rights that we have. And that even in the most difficult situations that people see around the world with America, there are still many people that just dream about coming to this country to be able to have an opportunity to be who they want to be. And that's what this nation is all about, that it's about us being who we want to be. The challenge is that when you have such a diverse community, is that we must be united on principles in the public square, forsaking, really loving my brother or loving my sister, the sanctity of life, making sure we protect one another. Those kinds of things are and those are all found in all your major religions. So, there's that common bond that brings us all together. But in order for us to be able to build upon and move past the errors of the present and the past is that we need to give voice to and provide action to the issues. Yes. And so really, I challenge everyone that is watching, especially those in the United States, that you are blessed and have a God-given right, and we must go out and vote. We must go out and be active in our communities. And if you're in the capital area, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, please feel free to get in touch with the host here. And if you want more information about our coalition and the work that we're doing, and you want to be able to give, be a part of that and help add voice to these issues like what we're seeing right now with Judge Cordero and this UC case, it's setting a precedent that is very wrong, and that we need to really bring about change. So it's important, whether everyone that's listening, everyone that will be watching this, we must understand that we have to say, you can't violate the Constitution as a government official, as a court official. You do not have the authority or the right to do that. And therefore, it's most important that we as a citizen can get up and give voice to that and advocate for that. So this forum gives us that opportunity to discuss it, to lay everything out and say, these are the issues. And now you've been made aware. Now we're educating you. And now we need to advocate and bring about the change and protect our First Amendment rights by stepping up and saying with this UC case that, hey, you're violating First Amendment rights for this faith community, this church organization, and you need to step out, and they need to reverse whatever judgments they've made that are against, because they have no right to make any judgment, period. So that's my final words. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you so much, so much. And thank you both, Dr. Murray, Imam Talib. We're so grateful that we have two champions like you defending the religious freedom and supporting interfaith work there in our nation's capital. God bless you both in your work. We're so grateful.
Thank you again.
I mean, thank you. Thank you indeed.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please click the like button and the subscribe button. We'd also love to hear your thoughts on religious freedom.